It's election day. In about 30 minutes, the polls will open in Indiana. They'll be open at 7 o'clock in Michigan.
Yeah, and we want to get right to one of the biggest races of the day, the race for Elkhart's mayor. Incumbent Mayor Democrat Dick Moore is facing off against Republican Tim Neese. WSBT 22's Kristen Bean is out at the polls this morning. She joins us live now. And Kristen, this race really a toss-up.
Oh, yeah, going to be a close one. Still unclear this morning who will win the job. Moore at 81 is seeking his third term in office. Tim Neese at 60 seeking his first. They both have name recognition. Moore has been with the city for decades. Neese, a former state representative. Let's talk about each on the issues. On annexation, it's an issue that created division within the community and generated several lawsuits. The candidates disagreed. Moore stands behind his actions and says his administration has no plans to annex more land. Neese, on the other hand, says it was a lack of communication that was the problem with the past annexation, and he'd be more organized and transparent. On the issues of the city's LGBT civil rights ordinance, while Moore verbally committed to revising the city's civil rights ordinance, that revised portion has not yet been released or signed. Neese, on the other hand, would rather see legislation come down at the state level. Downtown growth is something both candidates see as a priority, and both candidates themselves say they want to continue to move the city forward.
I'm not done. I don't want to quit. This has been my life for a long time. This is my 39th year in this government, in one position or another.
Well, because I'm not running to come in second. I want to be a good administrator. I'm not running of Elkhart for a legacy. I'm running to do a good job.
And both candidates have spent their time campaigning differently. Neese has spent 27 months on his campaign. Moore began mid-October. Both are running television ads right now. You may have seen those. Moore overall has raised more money and spent more money. Of course, the polls here in Indiana open at 6 o'clock. We're in South Bend this morning. Poll workers have just arrived to get this poll ready to be opened. Now, this is a city election, meaning voter turnout expected to be low. That's why your vote matters, because many of these races we're following today could be decided by a very small margin. We'll be following all of them. Live here in South Bend, Kristen Bean, WSBT 22 News. Good morning, Kristen Bean here live at a South Bend polling location. We're at the LaSalle Council right off 23. You can see poll workers here have just opened this polling place. Not a lot of people lining up to vote here. This is a municipal election, so many of these races being decided today will be decided by a very small margin because voter turnout expected to be relatively low. Now, if you live in a county, there's nothing for you to decide this morning. You can sit back and watch as the results come in tonight. South Bend will be picking a mayor today. Incumbent Pete Buttigieg going up against challenger Callie Jones. Elkhart mayor's race expected to be close. Former state rep Tim Neese taking on incumbent Dick Moore. And then perhaps one of the most controversial races today, South Bend's 2nd District race. Henry Davis Jr. running for his seat as an independent, taking on Democrat Regina Williams-Preston. Of course, our WSBT political analyst this weekend calling both of those candidates flawed, so that will be an interesting race to watch. Goshen will also be picking a mayor. In Michigan, there are no major races to decide, although there's some bond and taxing issues in Dowagiac and Edwardsburg. We'll have all the results here on WSBT throughout the evening, and of course we'll be watching the polls today for voter turnout. Like I said, this voter turnout expected to be low. It is a municipal election, so your vote really does matter, as many of these races could be decided by a very small margin. We'll be watching live here in South Bend. Kristen Bean, WSBT 22 News.
And Leanne Tokars.
Well, voters are right now heading to the polls this morning. They'll decide on several key city seats.
One closely watched race this season has been this race for the 2nd District Common Council seat in South Bend. WSBT 22's Kristen Bean is live this morning at the polls. And Kristen, this race is between two very controversial candidates.
Yeah, WSBT's political analyst Jack Caldwell this weekend calling both those candidates flawed, saying voters will have a tough choice. On one hand, of course, you have Henry Davis Jr. He's running for his 3rd term for the 2nd District Council seat. This time, though, he's running as an independent. Davis has had his fair share of controversy, and it's been well documented in the media. Most recently, though, questions about his fundraising finance report. In a campaign report filed with the county clerk on October 15th, Davis said he raised no money and spent no money for his Davis for 2nd District campaign. But then 5 days later, he submitted another report saying he had raised just under $2,000 and spent $1,600 of that. When asked about this during a public debate, Davis admitted he purposely filed the false report. A constituent has filed a complaint against him. On the other hand, in this race, you have Regina Williams-Preston. She's running on the Democrat ticket for the 2nd District. Last week, the South Bend Tribune reported she owed thousands in fees and penalties for various code enforcement violations. She also owes about $13,000 in back taxes and penalties to the county. Preston, of course, had said that she's working with an attorney to solve these issues and says they ultimately stem from her husband falling ill. Now, both candidates clearly have their issues. They've been mired in controversy throughout this race. This is a race that is expected to be close, and since this is a municipal election, voter turnout expected to be low. This is one of those races that could be decided by a very small margin. Of course, we'll be watching throughout the day to see how this develops. You can get the results here on WSBT later this evening, and of course, as always, online. Live here in South Bend, Kristen Bean, WSBT 22 News.
Kristen, thank you. Our election coverage will continue, but first let's stop and check in with you, Abby, because we've had some great weather.
Yeah, we sure have. No excuse today, weather-wise, not to get out and vote.
Yes, you will have no issues weather-wise. I think the majority of you will just be outside anyways. I saw so many people trying to tackle those leaves yesterday, and guess what? You'll get another chance to do so today. Past 6 hours of motion, clear skies overhead overnight, and that will transfer into a mostly sunny Tuesday. 47 degrees in South Bend, 49 in Goshen, 43 in LaGrange and Warsaw, and 45 right now along the lake shore. Winds relatively light. Any activity is coming out of the south. As we get into the afternoon, wind speeds will be anywhere from about 10 to 15 miles per hour. So with that, here is your Tuesday forecast, starting in the 40s, ending at 72 degrees with sunshine. The 70s aren't done tomorrow either, but we do have change heading our way before the week is over. I'll track it for you and time it out for you hour by hour coming up in a few minutes. Bob?
All right, Abby, thanks very much. 6:34. You will weigh in on some other big races today as well.
Yeah, here's a look at some that will have the biggest impact where you live. In South Bend, incumbent Mayor Pete Buttigieg is running for re-election. He's facing off against Republican Kelly Jones.
In the Elkhart mayor's race, voters will choose between Republican Tim Neese or Democrat incumbent Mayor Dick Moore. Both agree one of their big focuses will be downtown development.
And in Goshen, the race for mayor has Democrat City Councilman Jeremy Stutzman against Republican City Engineer Mary Kripe. Stutzman says if elected, he would focus hard on city budgets. Kripe says one of her priorities is local roads. Now in Michigan, many of you will cast a vote today on some important school elections. In Dowagiac, the school district is hoping you'll vote yes twice today. There will be two bond proposals totaling about $37 million. The first would pay for more secure entrances at the high school and the elementary schools. Plus, bathrooms and bleachers would be redone to be more handicapped accessible. Now, the second proposal would pay for a new gym and other improvements to the schools. You can vote to approve one or both or neither. If both proposals do pass, a person owning a $100,000 valued home would pay about $175 more in property taxes each year. And there are community issues you will be voting on today as well, like in Edwardsburg, where you will decide if you want to raise taxes to pay for a new police station and 2 new officer positions. It calls for a $1 mil tax increase. If passed, homeowners would pay roughly an additional $100 a year for every $100,000 of a home's value. Now, if you are headed out to the polls today, there are a few quick reminders to help make your election day run a little more smoothly. We've said it before, we'll say it again. The polls in Indiana are open right now. They do close at 6 tonight. Michigan polls open in 25 minutes, 7 o'clock, and will close at 8 tonight. Remember to bring a government-issued ID with you, a photo ID. You won't be able to cast your ballot in Indiana without one. In Michigan, you can sign an affidavit. Also, double check your polling place before you head out the door this morning. You can find that information on our website, WSBT.com. Just click Campaign 2014 at the top of the homepage. And stay with WSBT 22 all day for your complete Campaign 2015 coverage. We'll update you with results as soon as they come in. For information on candidates and polling locations, just head over to our website, WSBT.com. Now 6:36.